I first offer my respectful obeisances to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda and to all the assembled devotees. Vancha kalpatarubhascha kṛpā-sindhubhyo patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. The devotees are like desire trees. Lord Chaitanya is the fulfiller of our innermost desire called the bhishtadoham. It's hard to know what to desire in this world, as we're misinformed about what might be good for us. There's lots of suggestions, and we like to say that tatastha, our liminal position, means that we're open to suggestion. You can be set on something on Monday and then change your mind on Thursday. And that's because somebody made a suggestion. Why don't you eat less sugar? Or what's wrong with sugar? You just eat as much as you want. And whatever anyone says, nothing against sugar, really. I'm just using it as an example. I know it's a highly political issue. So, in this world, it's important to be informed about what's important. We need an intervention. Caitanya Mahāprabhu said to Sanātana Goswami, Māyā-mugdha jīvera nāhi svataḥ kṛṣṇa-jñāna, jīvere kṛpāya kailā, Krishna veda-purāṇa. For that reason, Krishna personally comes in the form of Śrīla Vyāsadeva, and he makes available the very clear knowledge that is comprehensible to humans. Humans can pick up a piece of literature or hear from someone who's heard from others wisdom that's been passed down through an authorized line. And when they hear it, then they can transform and improve their lives. It's not automatic that people come out of illusion. Māyā-mugdha jiva nāhi svataḥ. It's automatic that somebody just comes out of illusion. There has to be an intercedence by someone who comes along and gives an indication that there's a better choice. In fact, the availability of lesser goals is the main hindrance for human beings. We have a plethora of paths that lead to results in our lives that are not sanguine and do not fulfill our innermost desire. Fortunately, Krishna loves us and wants us to have his association in the blissful spiritual world. And he makes every arrangement so that we can have such interventions in our lives. And Prabhupada once said that two things are necessary to extricate oneself from one's present position and rise to a higher level. And those are knowledge and practice. And of course, we have the same, Lord Chaitanya said, sambandha jnana and abhideya. You have to have knowledge of your relationship with Krishna, and also simultaneously with your non-relationship with the material world. Asango hyayam purushaha, the Vedas say, that the little jiva, there's nothing to see here for you. In fact, there's a little structure at the gate to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's Samadhi in Mayapur. And if you enter the first part of the gate and walk in, there's a sign that's been there forever. And when you walk by the sign, you may be tempted to look in the building, but it says, there's nothing to see here. It's one of my favorite signs. And that sign could just as well be posted, in fact it is, on the material world altogether. But because of the verisimilitude, the fact that this material world is a reflection of reality, Urdhvamulamada shakam ashvatam praharavyam chandamsi yasya parnani yastam veda savedavid. There's a way in which it's a reflection of reality. And Prabhupada calls it a colossal hoax. He also said, make the best use of a bad bargain. Have you ever been cheated? Or ripped off? How did it make you feel? Bamboozled? Thank you. No, seriously, how did it make you feel? Huh? Dumb? Despondent. That's a sophisticated word for a very visceral feeling. Yeah. It's hard to admit, too, you've been ripped off. It's like, what happened? Oh, nothing. That's why when the body starts to deteriorate and everyone tries to cover it up, how you doing? Yeah, pretty good. Don't want to admit you got ripped off again. But it's not really rip off because human life, labvam sadurlamabidam bahusam bhavante manusyamartanam anityam apihadira. There's a way in which it's just such a rare opportunity that's achieved by the graces of the material nature, by Krishna's grace, to give an opportunity for those who are cycling helplessly through the various species of life to come to the human life. And then there's every opportunity for one to embrace the knowledge that comes down through the channel of the Sri Guru Parampara. And this is the greatest opportunity in the life of any jiva whose sojourn in the material world is incalculable. The length of the sojourn is incalculable. And so, in the Krishna consciousness movement, we have the situation where we both become the consumers of this knowledge, and then we have the enviable position of being able to distribute it. And it's good work if you can get it. Because Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, there's no one dearer to me than someone who distributes this. And I don't know if any of you have a boss. Has he or she ever told you how dear you are to him or her? And did you believe them? Because oftentimes such accolades are ephemeral. In fact, when you're asked to clear out your desk after a lot of hard work and there's no sense of gratitude, only efficiency in the bottom line, there's a little sense of disappointment. But when we work for Krishna, he accepts even the smallest gesture as in his service as significant, and it's all recorded. Well, if that's true, then one might say, well, what can I do? Right? Go ahead and say it. I'm glad you asked me that. Well, Śrīla Prabhupada gave clear indications that one might embrace the order of Lord Caitanya Mahāprabhu and his clear, open order, which is like one of those pardons where you just pardon people preemptively and just say just take this. If anything ever happens, you're free. Lord Caitanya Mahāprabhu, if you imagine on a governmental level, if people have pardon power, how much Lord Caitanya must have. He can give you preemptive pardons. Not that we're interested in pardons per se, I'm just indicating the power that he has. And Śrīla Prabhupada writes in the second canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the matter of the Chaturshloki Bhagavatam, that the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a manifestation of his internal potency. And he says it is by that potency that one comes to see the Lord face to face. There's a lot in the utterance of the Supreme Lord for us. When Caitanya Mahāprabhu speaks to us, he invites us to share the knowledge that comes down through him, through the Guru Parampara, through the great acharyas. And it's a great relief because most people are confused about what to do in life. People come in various categories of confusion. There are various categories of confusion. Raga, bhaya, krodha, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. Some people are inordinately attached to the material world, helplessly, haplessly attached to the material world. Raga. They just can't let it go. It's hard to imagine losing anything, what to speak of those things that are most dear to one, but it's inevitable, and that's a difficult situation to be in, don't you think? Say yes. Yes. And then bhaya means there's fear. The material world's pervaded by fear. Bhayam dvitiya abhinibesha tasyad ishad apetasya viparya smriti. There's a way in which Kavi Yogendra describes how in this material world, because people don't see God's hand in their life, and much more than that, they're fearful. The greatest fear is the fear of and the threat of non-existence, that I may be cast into oblivion and lost forever, or I may become nothing and lose my personhood. And then there's also a fear of being a person because of being a person, second point, because there's a way that being a person is complicated in the material sense, when I identify with my material body. And therefore, some people in abject pain, psychological pain, try to obliterate their sense of self. One of the ways that people do that nowadays is by scrolling. You just lose yourself and hand yourself over to somebody else to manipulate your mind and intelligence. Or there are philosophies in which one may hope for obliteration of the self. These are out of a sense of pain. And then comes krodha, or anger, when everyone's conjecture about the truth and the competing ideas seem so contradictory that people come to a point of frustration where they feel that there is no answer to anything and there is no real authority in this world. But where does that leave anybody? Now, Krishna says, vitaraga bhaya krodha, you have to give these things up. Manmaya upashrita bahavo jnana tapasa putamad bhavamagata. But Krishna is so kind in this verse, he says, don't worry. Many, many people have done it. They've overcome these psychological anomalies that trouble us here in this world. And anyone can. With a little love and care, and with a little knowledge, anyone can rise above these psychological, torturous conditions in this world. And so Caitanya Mahāprabhu, is the most merciful form of Krishna, comes to give everyone a chance to come in contact with this potent knowledge. And it's not just knowledge, it's a process combined. Divyam jnanam yato dadyat kurvat papasya saṅkṣayam. There's a way in which, by taking the mantras that are passed down, as Caitanya Mahāprabhu told Sanātana Goswami, devotees are Vaisesika. He said they're spiritual doctors. And doctors used to go around the neighborhood with a little black bag. At least when I used to watch TV as a kid. A little black bag, you have what you need, and there's a bedside manner. And they go to find those people who are suffering and they give them care. And Caitanya Mahāprabhu said that the devotees can be like that and offer this medicine. Comes in the form of, he said, hymns and instructions. Two things they get. And these are all powerful to revive the natural condition of the soul, which is to love Krishna and feel this sense of overwhelming gratitude for Krishna and everything. Just drinking water, having the association of devotees, and seeing every moment as an opportunity to come closer to Krishna. And Prabhupada executed this order of Caitanya Mahāprabhu with obvious brilliance. And when he was coming to meet the world via Boston Harbor and then Butler, Pennsylvania, and then New York City, then San Francisco, New Mexico, Montreal, London. Now the list has expanded. He had that little black bag, and he had the hymns, he had the instructions, and he meted them out to all the people that he met, one at a time. And then he said to us, "Kindly help me." And he invited us all to join in a movement that could change the world and give everyone an opportunity. And he gave us the means to do that also. He taught us the process, as mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto. Padapotena mahakritena kurvanti govatsa padam bhavabdim. If you're able to get a process from an authorized acharya, you're in luck. So all you have to do is follow it. Once you get the process, what do you have to do? Once you get the process, all you have to do is follow it. That could be like a march, you know. Once you get the process, all you have to do is follow it. Follow it. Once you get the process, all you have to do is follow it. Follow it. So I can tell myself when I wake up in the morning, all I have to do is follow the process. And kurvanti govatsa padam bababdim, the terrifying ocean of the material world shrinks because of the power vested in the words of the Acharya who has formed the process and given us an opportunity to take it up. The great souls, Mahat, Kritena, also refers to Krishna, who's the greatest. And he gives us a process in the Bhagavad Gita. So, Prabhupada emphasized going out for our own purification. He said, go meet people and introduce them to this knowledge and make friends with them. Bring them into the fellowship of the Vaishnavas. Let them associate. Let them feel what it feels like to take prasadam. I was just in Davis. Devavrata Prabhu and his team have started a house, mantra house. No, it's not called mantra house. It's a Krishna conscious embassy, small one, right on the campus in Davis. And I met a couple of students who recently started coming to the programs. And one of them, they were telling me that he's not used to being treated so nicely. He was a little reticent because he wasn't used to the profuse kindness, which comes naturally to devotees. Devotees feel the opulence of Krishna in their life, they feel, I hate to use this phrase because it sounds cliche, but abundance in their life. Sorry, but it applies. There's a way in which when we're self-controlled, when we are following the four regular principles strictly, with no exceptions, and we're finishing our 16 rounds, and we're engaging our intellect in the Bhagavad Gita, we're opulent. So opulent, and when the first devotees went to India on Prabhupada's request, in Surat, people were coming out and bowing down when the Western devotees walked by on kirtan, and they would dig up the ground and take dirt and smear their bodies with it. And when the devotees asked Prabhupada why they were doing that, he said, because you are following four regular principles and chanting 16 rounds. It's no small thing. And when we have that, we have such opulence in our own life. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan atman yevatmana tushta stita pragnasta dochite. When somebody's fixed in consciousness, they have the wherewithal to not engage in trivia. It's so embarrassing for the soul to engage in trivial matters in this world because we have such a bigger mission. And to be sidetracked by stupid stuff, which is all that there is practically. It's all stupid. And when we get the wherewithal to not cling to it or have it cling to us, Prajahati yada kaman. Prajahati means enough's enough. That's it. I'm finished with this. I don't want it anymore. Prajahati da kaman. All these kaman means desires that you can never fulfill. Kama means a desire you can't fulfill. Kama means a desire you can't fulfill. Brahma told it to Hiranyakashipu when he's asking for all this highfalutin stuff, and Brahma's like, it's not going to work out. It's not going to end well, sir. Don't take a benediction you can't handle. And the fact is, the jiva in this world can't handle any material benediction. It has to be engaged in Krishna's service, otherwise it sticks to us and it becomes a weight that pulls us down into these three psychological torturous conditions that Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita. Atmaniva manatushta, when we feel satisfied in ourself because we're self-contained and we know, I only want Krishna. We know that for ourselves. We can identify it in our consciousness and we say, I don't want anything else. I only want Krishna. When we have that, then we have such an opulence that Krishna will use us in his service unlimitedly. And that's what the Krishna consciousness movement is. It's a way to be directly connected to Krishna through his order, coming down through the Guru Parampara, and engage in his work. So, what's not stupid stuff in this world? I'll tell you what's not stupid stuff. Bhagavad Gita, as it is. That's not stupid. That's the best thing that ever happened to the world. Don't you think? What's the best thing that ever happened to the world? Yeah, if you present to somebody and say, I'm going to show you the best thing that has ever happened to this world. Well, what do you got in your bags? Like, check it out. It's the best thing ever happened to the world. What about Srimad Bhagavatam? Oh, come on. Yes. Yeah, so we have stuff that's not stupid. That's a big deal, because if you go anywhere in the world, any shop, and I'm not going to say anything, I say things about Home Depot, but I won't say anything about, what's the other one here? Because Chaturātma works there. Therefore, for me, it's a place of pilgrimage, because you can get enlightenment at that one, but only that one probably. But anyway, the whole world's full of stupid stuff, but we have stuff that's not stupid. And when you have that, you have the best product that you could get anywhere in the universe or any creation outside this universe. Shri Shri Radhe Shyam Ki Jai, Krishna Balaram Ki Jai, Shri Shri Gaura Nitai Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande Hari Bol. Keep going? All right. So, I think books are just fantastic. Books are a concerted effort by somebody. Even if the books, if you might have noticed that sometimes people write a book and they don't even know what they're talking about. But if somebody gives it to you, you think, what am I going to do with this? Because it's really hard to get rid of a book. Humans love books, even ones they can't read. You keep them in boxes because it represents potential, our potential, that, yeah, we could make something of ourselves. This is the human urge. When you come into the human life, there's all kinds of ideas. Let's go to space. Let's dig a hole as far as possible into the earth and see what's in the core. Everyone wants to investigate everything as far as possible because that's the human urge to find atato brahma jignasa. What's the thing that's going to actually give me this abhishta doham? What's going to satisfy my heart? So everyone's looking everywhere. And when they see books, they feel, yeah, maybe this will do it for me. And there's a lot of books out there nowadays. But these books are special because they come from Krishna. And they're represented to the world. It's apparently paper and ink, but it's transcendence, meeting this material world in a practical form that people can take home with them. And it's hard for them to divest themselves of these books once they receive them. And even if they do, too bad, because it's going to go somewhere else and somebody else is going to get it. Even somebody I remember saying as kids, I'm rubber, you're glue. Whatever you say bounces off to me and sticks to you. And the Hare Krishna mantra is like that too. Like, Hare Krishna. It's like, I don't like Hare Krishna. Too bad, you just said it and that's going to stick. And the books stick too. People see the cover, they go through the pictures, they read one word, one line, they put it on the shelf. 20 years later, they're having a bad day, bad week, bad month, bad life, and they say, well, let me look for something, and they find the book and they open up and they hear Krishna's sweet voice speaking in their ear that you're not going to die and you do have recourse in this world and I'm going to tell you what to do. What a day that is. So Prabhupada gave us this opportunity for ourselves to take advantage of Bhagavad Gita. It's one of the most underutilized of all the scriptures in the world because everyone knows Bhagavad Gita, right? And if you're from India, your mom read Bhagavad Gita, right? And if you're from India, your grandmother memorized Bhagavad Gita. But when have you taken time to read Bhagavad Gita lately? Like really sat down in a comfortable place, in a respectful posture, and read the Bhagavad Gita deeply for at least an hour without stopping. Just for your own records, just think about it. And if we understand the opportunities speaking directly to us, and it's God's intelligence, obviously. And when we read it, we'll be so impressed that we won't be interested in anything else except for serving Krishna. And it has that effect on people. So Bhagavad Gita is the book for the whole world. God speaking directly. And then you have Srimad Bhagavatam, stories within stories that can keep you engaged forever. Try assimilating Bhagavatam. You know what that means? Do you? Thank you. It means that you'll have to regulate your senses so that you can go more deeply within it. It means stopping other stuff in your life that's a distraction. So you can be more focused on hearing Bhagavatam and assimilating it. The effects of that are so deep that the second verse of Bhagavatam says, Krishna won't leave your heart. If that's your objective in life, is to assimilate the Bhagavatam. So, Prabhupada gave us a purpose. That one happens to be the seventh purpose of ISKCON. Has anybody here memorized the 7 purposes of ISKCON? Thank you, Presence. Why did you do that? She found Bhakti Yosef was in ISKCON. And she wanted to know what it was all about, so she memorized the 7 purposes. They're eloquently written, aren't they? In fact, the first 2 I often use on book distribution to tell people what we're doing. And you just say it to them or show it to them on a card. And they're really impressed. It's like, wow, you're doing good work. But I just thought I'd bring your attention to the 7th purpose. And Prabhupada says, with a view towards achieving the aforementioned purposes, to publish and distribute periodicals, magazines, books, and other writings. With a view to achieving the aforementioned. In other words, this is the engine that gets the other 6 done. And my experience is that when I have the opportunity to go out into the great unknown, known as the public, and offer these literatures that Prabhupada painstakingly offered to me as a way of trying to repay a debt, I couldn't be happier. In fact, sometimes I dream about it, and that's when I wake up extremely happy. And whenever I have the opportunity to go out on book distribution, to go meet people, door to door, or wherever we may be, then I feel as if I'm enveloped by the internal potency of the Lord. It's funny because you go outside and then you get enveloped by the internal potency. Do you find it funny? Okay. So this is one thing. Now, if I want to change slides, since I did get a take it back. My apologies. Hare Krishna. I'll show a few more slides. Would you like to see a few more slides? Okay. Prabhupada gave such directives, print as many books in as many languages, distribute throughout the world. That's a big task. During Prabhupada's time, there was a lot of engagement in translating books. You know what drives translation? Well, think about it and then answer. Demand. That's exactly right. Who said it? Yeah, of course, Nandini Kishori. Demand drives translation because when there's a demand, when devotees say, we want the Bhagavad Gita as it is, and name a language that it isn't in yet. And don't say Braille because we have it now. Icelandic? Cornish, okay. Icelandic or Cornish? I'm not sure. Do we have it in Cornish? Okay. Ask kṛpāya. Okay, I will. If somebody had a strong desire for it in a certain language and saw a prospect and wanted it, then likely somebody would come along that would be eager to translate it, knowing that it would go out to people. That is a movement that's humming. You know when a movement hums? Have you ever heard it before? You can lean in and you listen, and the movement's humming, as in humming along. Not humming along with the song, but humming along as in going somewhere, is when there's translation of Bhagavad Gita going on for the purpose of distribution. If you're in a house or a community or a building, I remember when His Holiness Bhakti True Maharaj lived in Rainey Park in Calcutta, and he was working on the translation to the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. And I went over a couple times to pay my obeisances to him, and every time I'd walk in that room, you could feel the tapasya, the divine sacrifice that was going on in there because of the level of bliss that was in that room. The translation of the Caitanya Charitamrita into Bengali or into the commentaries into Bengali, Prabhupada's commentaries and so forth. And when this sort of demand arises in a community that this is important, we have to do this, what to speak of the artwork? What drives purposeful artwork? For purposeful means describing certain pastimes. Colin Nandini Kishori, same answer. Demand. So, you know Dhriti Devidasi? She's a famous artist in ISKCON, disciple of Prabhupada. She joined when she was in her teens. She was a great artist. She was with a group out in New York, hung around a little too long with the Hare Krishnas, and ended up being a Hare Krishna, and flew out to California along with her friends. And it just happened to be right in the beginning of the Caitanya Charitamrita marathon for printing the whole Caitanya Charitamrita within a few months. Or was it 2 months? 2, thanks. And she said when she got there, they took her immediately to an easel in a room, and she started painting, and it didn't stop. And I asked her, what did you think of that? She said, I didn't think anything, because I thought that's what ISKCON was. And she only realized it, she said, in the most melancholy moment of her life, when Prabhupada left the world. And then she realized that she had been painting for Prabhupada because of his intense desire to show Krishna to the world. Who else would do that? 54 color plates in the Krishna book alone, and he employed artists many of whom had very little experience in painting. And you know what he told them? In a dank downstairs room in Boston where they had easels and all the artists were there assembled to serve Prabhupada by painting. You know what the exchange was? They said, Prabhupada, some of them, we're not artists. We really aren't that technically skilled in painting. And another thing, we don't know what God looks like. Prabhupada said, you stay in front of the canvas and pray. And look at the result. Look what came out. And Prabhupada wanted to show Krishna to the world because Yene Ravindakshava Muktamaninas Toyasta Bhavada Vashuddha Buddhaya Arvaya Krishna Paramparam Tata. If you don't see the lotus eyes of Krishna, you're in a lot of trouble, because you're going to have to look somewhere else. You're going to have to watch some other stupid stuff. Not other stupid, you're going to have to watch stupid stuff. So Prabhupada wanted that. He got the paintings going, got the translations going all over the world. Who got the translations going all over the world? One name. You can say it. Prabhupada. Yeah, because he wanted it. And he created this demand all over the world. So there were translators, there were artists, there were editors, everybody working together. It's so hard to print a book. It's like building a house. You publish one book, it's like building a fancy house from the ground up. Even when the manuscript's done, that's when the real work begins. Right? So many decisions to make, so many technical moves. Prabhupada printed over 70 books in just about a decade. What demand he created. So he's inviting us also to realize the demand for this, or create the demand. When we go connect people to the knowledge through books, then the demand increases and it creates jobs, jobs, jobs. If elected, I guarantee jobs, jobs, jobs. Because when you have this outward-facing mission to go out and give people Krishna consciousness, especially through books, then it creates jobs for everybody. And they're really good jobs too. Painting, translating, editing, all the things that keep you in samadhi. So this seventh purpose of ISKCON, it drives all the other ones. And we have what's called the sampradaya. The word itself means the complete gift. Shall we speed things up and be more entertaining? Say yes. All right. Here we go. Who's that? What's he holding? A book. Just say a book. I need it to resound against the walls. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know how he got it. It's the beginning of creation, but there it is. And that's Śrīla Bhaktisiddhanta's approved version of him holding a book, because as Rabindra Sarup Prabhu told me, who wrote the foreword to my book called Our Family Business, he said, we're known as the sampradaya of the book. And watch. Who's that? What's he writing? Who's that? What's he got in his hand? Who's that? What's he kneeling in front of? Who's this? What's he doing? Who's that? What are they famous for? Who's this? What's he posing with? Who's this? What's he posing with? Who's this? What's he posing with? Very good. 1600 on your SAT. That's all you have to know. So books are containers. That's what they are. And they hold seeds. What kind of seeds? Idea seeds. Do they have an effect on people? Do they have effect on the world? Is this all just sentimental, what we're doing? No, look, there's books that have changed the world. The best-selling book per capita of all time, still, is right there. It's called Common Sense. It was written by Thomas Paine and is sold, not given away, sold in the colonies. And that's, according to historians, what galvanized the people of the colonies to rise up and have the American, correct. And that's why we're sitting here today. And who has heard of the theory of evolution? 1, 2, 3 people only. How many have not heard of it? Okay, that's easier. Okay, thank you, good. Glad to hear it. So, how many of you have the book, Origin of the Species? Maybe it's in your car, in the glove box, at home, on your nightstand. Do you have it? So how do you know about the theory of evolution? It's because somebody sat down and wrote it down and thought about, speculated on various ideas, and they took the trouble to bind it in a book and present it to peers who said, it could fly. And then it got distributed all over the world, because books go out into the world just like messages in a bottle. Who knows where they're going to land? And when they do land, the idea seeds spell out, and they go into the hearts and minds of people. And now any self-help book, you can try this out. Go to a library or a bookstore. Any self-help book you read, by the time you get to the 3rd page in the 2nd chapter, the author is going to say, when we evolved from lower life forms on the savannah, this is why we have such instincts and blah, 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 as when I put the book back on the shelf and say, why did I pick this up in the first place? It's because Charles Darwin took the trouble to write a book, and the ideas seeds have spread all over the world and grown into sturdy trees of faulty philosophy. And then you have handwritten books. Humans love to write things down because they want to organize their knowledge. That's why they write it down. That's pictures of palm leaves. And imagine the painstaking process one might have to take. First of all, to get a palm leaf that's flat. Second of all, you have to use a metal stylus and impress it on the leaf itself. That's how you make the letters. And then you put it in the sun, and then they blacken like that, where it was pressed. How long do you think it would take you to write the Bhagavad Gita like that? How many? How long? Forever? That's a long time. It was what? One day of Brahma, he'd take you. And forever less one day. That's why humans are smart, aren't they? Say yes. Humans are really smart. Time I ever think of something, I look up on the internet and go, yeah, it's already taken. They already thought of that. And they came up, did humans with printing press. This isn't the original printing press that humans came up with. It was a simpler one. It was called the Gutenberg press. And he wanted to print Bibles. Because people who believe in God, they want other people to believe in God because they want them to get benefit. So they started printing more Bibles at a time rather than writing them by hand. And then these printing presses. The reason I use this picture is because I had one of the most delightful shocks of my life when I went to a museum there in Bagh Bazaar, Calcutta, at the Gaudiya Math, where Śrīla Bhaktisiddhanta built his flagship temple. And there's a museum, and it wasn't open yet, but because I told them that I was a Prabhupada, well, somebody else told them that I was interested in book distribution and this and that. So then they took me to the top floor, and there I saw one of Śrīla Bhaktisiddhanta's printing presses. And it looked just like that, because that's the same model. And you know what it says on it? In raised letters in brass, Cleveland, Ohio. He sent away for the best technology on the planet at the time, which was the Chandler and Price Gordon printing press. And he had several of them running constantly in his mutt. And he placed them adjacent to the deities because he wanted to emphasize that this was a divine instrument used for the Brihat Madanga. On his logo for the Gaudiya Math, there are many images, and one of them is the printing press on his logo. So much invested in the idea of using this new technology at the time to spread the knowledge of Krishna all over the world. Bhaktivinoda Thakur did it also, didn't he? Say yes. He sent books to Thoreau, Emerson, to universities and so forth, and he wanted to get conversations going all over the world. Best way to do that is with books. And then the printing press, Śrīla Bhaktisiddhanta had, was the idea he passed on to our founder Acharya. Because when he asked, did Śrīla Prabhupada, of his guru, how may I serve you? He said, if you ever get many, print books. And when he got to America, Śrīla Prabhupada didn't have any money, except for the $20 he had from selling a set of his Bhagavatams to the sea captain right before he got off the ship. And gradually, little by little, because there were no Indians, just counterculture people who dropped out of high school, college to join the Krishna consciousness movement, and there wasn't a lot of money available. But when there was a little bit, the first thing Prabhupada purchased was a printing press. What's more, he had sent his disciples to New York City to apprentice to learn how to run it. And as soon as he got the opportunity, just as his spiritual master said, whenever you get money, print books, he had bought a place on Beacon Street in Boston and moved in the printing press. He called Narayan, who was the only builder in ISKCON, and asked him to reinforce the floor so that it didn't cave in the house, because it's such a heavy instrument. And Prabhupada started his press to print books and get them out, just as his guru had asked him to do. So Prabhupada had this one-pointed attention on the orders of his spiritual master. And now, if you have the patience, I'm going to say a few words about book distribution, more specifically. Do you have patience for that? Yes. I'm going to teach you a few principles that are going to make you fearless in going out to distribute books. What's more, I'm going to save you a lot of time. I think about time saving a lot. In fact, when I'm at a stoplight and I notice that people lollygag, as soon as the light turns from red to green, it takes them at least 5 to 10 seconds to notice and then leave. What if you took the sum total of all those hesitations and added them up? How much would you get? Thank you, a lot. See, I think about these things. So now I'm going to give you a time-saving device for book distribution that's going to add a lot of years onto your life, because you won't be in anxiety. Anxiety gives you a shorter lifespan. And you're going to do better in the service, and you're also going to be happier and blissful even. And you can thank me later. Okay? Say yes. Yes. Okay. The ripe fruit principle. This is in the Bhagavatam, by the way. Ishvare taradineshu balisheshu dusatsucha prema maitri kripopeksha. Work with me, people. Ya karoti sa madhyama. There's a way in which the madhyamas who go out into the great unknown to distribute knowledge are meant to discriminate. Discriminate. What does that mean? Well, I summed it up in a ripe fruit principle. Look for the ripe fruits. Here's a scale of bananas. 8, that's really ripe. 1, not so much. Here's for humans. Now here's how it works on a scale. 10 is so far off the charts, I didn't even put the number on there. So when I go out to meet people, I see where they are on this scale of 1 to 10. Now, if you're just getting started with book distribution, don't talk to anybody that's 5 or under. Five, actually, I need to change that one, because here's what 5 is actually. If you greet somebody as a friend, although albeit when they haven't met yet, and you extend your goodwill and you smile and you're obviously there to give them transcendental gifts, maybe not obvious to them, but there's a way in which when you greet them, for perhaps if you said hi, and then they did this. That's the smile with no teeth. That's 5 and under. Of course, you can go further down the list and you can see what might happen. But this one is no go. But once you get past 5, then you start getting people who they show their teeth. Hi, and then 5.1. And then when you get 5.2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, when you go to pick fruits, which ones do you pick? The ripe fruits, right? Say yes. Yes. And then, how do you know? Now, this is out of Rath Yatra in New York City. That guy just happened to walk in, and you see him on the left? Ripe or unripe? Right. We labeled it for you, just in case you couldn't tell. Okay, now how about this one? The guy on the right. That's a kṛṣṇa-jñāna on the other side, by the way. What about the guy on the right? Ripe or unripe? Okay, now here comes your test. Go. Got to be faster. See, that's how that works. Now, when you know how to select, you don't have to convince anybody. You just have to select the ripe fruits, because people are dictated to by the modes of material nature. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Tribir gunamaya bhaver ebi sarvamidam jagat mohitam nabijanati mamebhya paramavyayam. And he also says, Yesham tontakatam papam jananam punyakarmanam. That there are some people who are naturally ripe, and they're open to the prospect of you introducing some transcendental knowledge. And when you look for those, then you'll save yourself the time. Little quiz. If you meet somebody who's under 5 or under, who doesn't respond well enough to you, you should follow them. Find out where their car is. Get the license plate number. See if you can call it in and find out where they live. And you should go to their house and try again. Yes? No. Yes? No. Yes? No. No, Vaisesika. Bad Vaisesika. So you don't want to chase people, just like you don't grab a fruit on the tree that's not ripe and yank it off with the branch and drag it home. You look for those that, some of them just fall off naturally, and if they're not harmed when they hit the ground, you can just take it home with you, right? So this principle will save you so much consternation. I got used to this principle more and more because at one point in my book distribution career, I was stationed in an airport where they told me, you can't come outside the booth. And I was not used to that until I realized the beauty of it, which was only the people I really wanted to talk to would come over to my booth when I waved to them. And I started doing that all the time. I just stand there and wait for people to come to me. And if you employ this, you'll find that book distribution is not a chore, that it's a delight, because you're going to meet the great seekers of the world out there. Okay? Okay, you want a couple more? Yes. You want life-saving tips and ones that will make you, empower you to distribute books unlimitedly and feel happy about it all the time? Yes. All right. Here's the next one. People are special. Ascharyavat pashyati kashyanenam ascharyavat vadati tataiva chanyaha. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, every soul is amazing. Say that.
Every soul is amazing. Every soul is amazing. Every soul is amazing.
Now close your eyes. Close your eyes. And imagine that everyone in this room has a sign around their neck that says, make me feel special. And after all, anyone who has a mirror at home, when you looked in the mirror in the morning, you thought, oh, how do I look? I hope I look special. Right? Say yes. Yes. So now open your eyes. Nanda didn't believe that one. She just wears white. She doesn't care. Okay, so open your eyes and then turn to the person next to you and tell them something to make them feel special. Come on. You're the most determined person I've ever met. All right, that's enough. And then, by the way, that's a good way to connect to community too. If that becomes your main thrust in the community, take time to stop by the kitchen next time you have prasadam and tell the person who's cooking how much you appreciate them. Tell your temple president how much you appreciate her painstaking efforts to hold together one of the most prolific of ISKCON's organizations in the world. Or if you find a cat who's doing her job around the grounds, go over and say a few words. You're one of the nicest cats I've ever seen, and the work you do here is very much appreciated, and we're glad you do most of it at night. So this is the secret to happiness in life and for book distribution. When you're able to see the soul, Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmaivad bhut vijanataha tatrako mohakashoka ekatvam anupashyataha. One who identifies with the soul, not artificially, but following the footsteps of the great souls who write the Shastra. Anupashyati. You see, okay, they're not their body, they're the soul. And you make them feel special based on that, then you'll find that their natural desire to embrace Krishna consciousness comes out. I'll give you one of the ways that you can do that. Very practical. One thing that you can tell people when you present a literature to them is, you look spiritual. Say it. You look spiritual. Turn to the person next to you and say it. You look spiritual. Now how do you feel? Spiritual. And this is what I call instant self-realization. Because if you go up to anyone and you say, you look spiritual, all of a sudden, the multitude of lifetimes they've cycled through where they identified with the body, and it's really been drudgery to go through this, to identify with one material body after another. When you say you look spiritual, they suddenly become liberated, and all the synapses in their brain start moving towards the point of self-realization, and they think, well, no wonder, because I am spiritual, and they forget their material body. And in one form or another, some expression of their spirituality comes out through the filter of their present body and mind. And you'll notice that they come to the point of appreciating you and what you're doing because you saw through the mask and you appreciated him. So if you keep this as the main thrust, they don't care so much about the book. They care about you and how you appreciate them as a soul. That's really what's happening. And then what about donations? May I bring it up? Yeah, because oftentimes people say, yeah, I'm all for this, I just don't know how to ask for a donation. Or we'll have a seminar where lots of people come and I talk and this philosophy and legacy and how to do this and that, but when it's time to go in a car and go out somewhere together, then the crowd diminishes quite a bit. Because we found through survey that most people get a call from their mom who needs a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and they have to go home right away. But if you catch them in a vulnerable moment, you'll find out that actually what they were afraid of was asking for somebody for a donation. So why ask for donations? Well, it's a way of connecting with the person, verifying their interest in the book, and creating a sense of interest in the book. These were some of Prabhupada's points he made. He said, when you ask them to give something in return, then they'll value it because they feel that they gave something for it. It's not just free. And he told a story about a boy who had prime mangoes, and he went door to door giving them away, attempting to give them away for free, and no one would take them. And then a mercantile person in the city told him, no, you have to charge, but move the price way up because that'll create value. And as soon as he started doing that, people were buying multiple mangoes from him. Prabhupada told that story. He said it creates this sense of value. And Prabhupada said, and if they give something, then they'll walk away and say to themselves, let's see what this rascal has given me. I'll read it because I gave my hard-earned $10. I want to see what it is. And it needn't be arduous. It needn't be arduous. And I'll tell you the evolution I've gone through in asking for donations. And then I find that when I explain to people why I'm asking for donation very directly, 9 times out of 10, they appreciate it. And they use their free will to give something. And that is a beautiful moment. When I don't pressure them, or when I give them freedom to choose based on the information I give them, which I'm about to show you, and they give, there is a change in the universe. That person's relationship to the universe has changed because of that interaction. So here's what I tell people, minus all the other aspects, because this is not, believe it or not, a book distribution class. I tell people we don't need the money, because we don't. And I say that the only reason we ask for donation, that it's an ancient tradition, when you give something in return for spiritual knowledge, it connects you to the previous teachers who have painstakingly passed it down over many generations. And it allows you to enter deeply within the knowledge. In fact, oftentimes I say it's kind of a penance. For spiritual knowledge, you should do some penance. And counterintuitively, you might think, well, that's crazy, Vaisesika. You're going to say that to people on the street? Yeah. And when I do, it's so direct and it's so truthful that it short circuits all their doubts. And they just say, yeah, okay, I get that. What's more, I give them free will to give whatever they want. And when I do that, I find that there's a way that people's hearts open up. In fact, sometimes, and it happens almost every time I go out to distribute books, when I give them free will to give whatever they want or to not give, I'll say, I'll give it to you even if you don't give. when they walk away, a lot of times they'll come back and catch up to me and say, I changed my mind, I want to give something. Because they feel your intention, that you were there for them, you were being generous, you were giving them something valuable, and you were only asking them to give for their own benefit so they get more out of it, and even if they don't give, they can keep it. So the other one I won't go into right now because there's a lot more to say, but I've given a few principles, and I think if I press the right one, it's going to turn to a black screen, right? What is it? Oh yeah, this is about Vajra Purnima. I'll say about this in a minute, but I just want to see if I wasn't sure what I was going to talk about tonight, but I was with a Karanath Prabhu and I said, what should I talk about tonight? And he said, Sankirtan. And I said, okay. I don't like to get typecast, you know what I mean? So a lot of times I'll give a class and everyone's like, you're going to talk about book distribution, right? And I say, not necessarily. I want, every time I come, everyone's like, yeah, you're going to give the same thing. But in thinking about it, it's something I do have a passion for. And in fact, my old friend Maharaj Das is back there. Circa 1973, we used to go out together to the San Francisco airport and many other places and sneak around. Anyway, what have you to say? Any thoughts, reflections on what I've said so far, or any questions to enliven the conversation? Krishna Kumar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
for the wonderful, inspiring lecture. So Hare Krishna. Here we go. So the penance principle, it's we're conscious, so we're doing penances as devotees for the satisfaction of the Lord, and the Lord is the ultimate beneficiary of sacrifice. Bahunam jamanan ante. So I came up with this principle for asking for something, and I call it penance. So I say, can you give something? And they're usually like, I don't feel like it, you know? And then you can go deep down in your own heart and go, not even a penny? I call it penance. And sometimes you get 50 from someone realizing, okay, this person's not looking for money. But if you really pray and you say, not even a penny, and you perform a little penance, you'll see, they'll reach in their pocket. And so I call it penance.
Thank you. I'd like the phrase, penance. Penance. Well, Bhuvaneshwar Prabhu, who's since passed during the pandemic, but he was one of the great characters of ISKCON, also a great servitor of Prabhupada, started in Los Angeles, and he was the Rajbhog cook at the Krishna Balaram Mandir in Vrindavan for many decades. And he used to tell how when he would go out for book distribution, other distributors had said, if you ask for a donation, people say they can't give anything, then tell them just give a nickel. And then they give you $5. And he said, I'd go out and I'd tell people just give a nickel, and they give me a nickel. In fact, he was the one, there was one of the longest standing court cases we had. It was his name, I forget his last name, do you remember? Purnath? Right? That we had to have somebody get arrested in order to have a court case against the Port Authority in Los Angeles. So they didn't want to sacrifice anybody else, so they sent Bhuvaneshwar out. Everyone else was getting arrested regularly, so they sent him out to start the court case, and then he said, yeah, I couldn't get arrested. I tried. I distributed right in front of the police. They wouldn't arrest me. Took me 2 weeks. It's really funny. Okay, a couple more. Yes, please. 1, 2.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for giving class here. I'm curious about, on the screen you showed the ripe, the least ripe to most ripe. And the picture of the bananas struck me because the super duper ripe bananas, I don't find them very, tasty. Maybe you can use them to make banana bread, but you wouldn't really eat them. And so it made me think about people who are almost so ripe that they're not willing to take Krishna consciousness anymore. They think that they're more enlightened, and I'm wondering how you might choose that. Or maybe they're burned by religion.
I'll tell you how I'll deal with that. I'm going to take that slide out. So somebody put that together for me haphazardly when I just was in London, and I don't really need it. The other one's more important, and I agree with you. It doesn't work in that way. Okay, you had one. Right here. Front row. Yep. 1, 2.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
I was wondering, it seems that when we distribute books, there's a direct connection between our focus and commitment to that service that evokes a certain response from maybe the day of what you're trying to do. Like if it's a campaign like the December marathon, and then you want to hit the target for Prabhupada and for Gurudev, and you just somehow you hit it. But sometimes you're on the street and for a whole day, like you distribute like 1 or 2 books. So what is happening in that moment? Is that just what goes through your mind, and how do you like motivate yourself in those moments?
Well, I've been distributing books long enough to know that there can be dry spells, but when you keep going, then it'll fill in. For some time, I live in a house with my wife near Akula Devi Dasi in San Francisco, near the San Francisco airport, in fact. In fact, we moved there just to be near the airport. And for some time, because a couple of my friends abandoned me, and I ended up there alone doing that airport, I made a chart for myself while I was alone to keep steady. And the chart had every possible response, there were 6 of them categorized, that people could make when I interacted with them. And every time that happened, I just checked the box off. And I found that over time, it all evened out. And then I was just an instrument. And if I just presented steadily and kept going, it's like this law in mathematics called the law of large numbers. The more times you perform an experiment, the more it comes to its average mean. If you flip a coin twice and it comes up heads, you could conclude that, it's not 50-50. It's just always heads, right? No. If you do it 10,000 times, it's going to come closer to the actual result, which is 50-50. Same thing with book distribution. But most likely, you need more training. Because when you lack technique and you don't have confidence because you're not exactly sure how to present, then oftentimes you can feel that sense of helplessness, or your results might be slower. But my suggestion is, don't go out to distribute books. Go out for self-purification and just to make friends with people. Don't think about the result at all. In fact, when we started our community at ISKCON of Silicon Valley, I didn't tell the devotees about individual scores. And to this day, we have no individual scores. Because that's how we started. Nobody even knew that you could score points individually by distributing books. It was all about a team score. And we didn't emphasize, till later, when people wanted it, a sense of trying to hit different goals with numbers and things like that. And if you go out without a sense of, I have to do a certain number, until you need that for your motivation, then it really helps to go out and just make friends with people, be more relaxed, and look for the ripe fruits. If all else fails, always just revert to looking for the ripe fruits and making people feel special and relax, and you'll do much better. Okay? All right, now because it may be getting late here in Alachua, right? Well, I think that we'll end with a bhajan. Can we get a bhajan? Yes. I have to ask Prabhu, Thank you. I'll take that drum back. Yeah. Somebody's got to run it though, because I'm going to play drum, so we'll need somebody who knows what's what. Actually, you've seen it many times, the slides at the bhajan, right? Radha Krishna Bowl. Yes? Give. Radha Krishna Bol Bol. Bolo Re Shobai. So why do I like this song? Why do I sing it? Well, it really moves. That's one thing. Who's got the clicker? Okay, the one thing, you just got to move it along when the time's right. You'll figure it out. Okay, so Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to print this song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur and distribute it to people on the street. It was one of the leaflets he'd give out because he liked the simple message in it. Shikadiya Shabnadiya Preche Neche Gornitai. The Gornitai are going out to the streets and they're singing these songs. It starts with Miche Mayar Poshe Jacho Beshe Kashu Habudubu Bai. Habudubu means, everyone say Habudubu. Now say it 5 times slow. That's the sound of bubbles coming up. It's onomatopoeic. It's bubbles and it means that you're drowning. So he says, Miche Mayar Boshe Jacho Beshe Kasho Habudubu Bai. My poor living being, you're drowning in this material world. Please don't waste your life. Don't make it miche. Then he says, Jiv kṛṣṇa-jñāna bishwas koleto ardukonai. So there's one thing where you can turn your life around, and this goes for anyone, anywhere. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Sarva dharman parityaja aham tang sarva papebhyo. And Jiva Goswami says, about this verse, devotees always remember this promise that Krishna has given. Just by surrendering to him, he'll deliver us from this material world. So Jiv kṛṣṇa-jñāna vishwas. If you just have this conviction, I'm a servant of Krishna, and go on in this way in your life, then you'll have no more misery. Then he says, Krishna bolbe jabe pulakhabe jorbe anki bolitai. When you continue to chant Hare Krishna, your heart will soften. Evam vrata swapriya nama kirtya jatana ragojita chuta uchaya. Drutta means to melt. Uchaya, the heart melts, and then ecstatic symptoms. Tears will come to your eyes, your hair will stand on end because of the power of the holy name. Then he says, Radha Krishna bolo shange cholo e matra bhikachai. Bhika means to beg. And so he says, all we're doing is begging people to please come with us and chant Hare Krishna. And then finally he says, Jai Shakla Bipo Bhakti Vida Bolan Jago Nom Nam Gai. When that name is heard, then there will be no more fear in your hearts, and the darkness in the world will vanish because of the appearance of the light of the holy name.